The objective of this job practice is to weld a single V-groove joint with backing in the flat position, meeting the standards of acceptability required to pass a visual inspection and a macro etch test. The materials, equipment, and power source settings are the same as the previous exercise. Using the skills and techniques learned on the previous job practice, weld a single V-groove joint with multiple passes. And when finished, mark or stamp your personal identification on the workpiece. Present the specimen to your instructor for visual inspection. The standards of acceptability are: the weld will be acceptable by visual inspection if there are no cracks. The weld must show that there is complete fusion between weld and base metal. If porosity is present, no single discontinuity shall exceed 1/16 inch, and there shall be no more than the combined total of 1/8 inch of porosity in any 1 square inch of weld. If undercut is present, it shall be no more than 1/32 inch in length or depth. And the face reinforcement for this weld shall be a minimum of flush with the base metal and a maximum of 1/16 inch. If your weld passes visual inspection, prepare a sample for the macro etch test by cutting your test piece in half. Grind or sand the cut edge of one piece until it is smooth and regular, avoiding pits or gouges which might give false defect indications. Now, have your instructor etch the smooth end of the sample with sodium hydroxide or another suitable etchant until the weld metal is clearly visible from the surrounding base metal. The standards of acceptability are: there must be complete fusion of weld metal and base metal on both sides of the joint and into the backing strip with no sign of incomplete joint penetration. There should be no sign of cracks, and there must be thorough fusion between layers of weld metal. Carefully inspect the finished etch and discuss the results with your instructor. The objective of this practice is to produce quality multi-pass fillet welds on 250 thousandths inch aluminum in the vertical position traveling up the joint. The materials, equipment, and machine settings are listed in your workbook and are essentially the same as in Topic 8, except that the amperage range is set between 180 and 200 to provide extra heat if needed. The workpiece for this job practice is a double T-joint made from 3 aluminum plates. Lay one piece flat on the table and position the second plate vertically in the center to form the T. Place a small tack weld at each end to join the plates together. Now position the third plate on the other side to form a second T-joint, identical to the first. Tack this plate the same as before, but overlapping the first tack welds slightly. Finally, place a tack weld in the center of 2 of the joints, so that these tacks are directly across from each other. This will help prevent the joint from spreading from the heat of welding. You may also tack weld a tab on one end of the joint to aid in clamping. While the joints are still hot, clean them with a stainless steel brush to remove oxides and contaminants. Assemble 3 identical workpieces before beginning the actual welding exercise. Clamp one of the workpieces in the vertical position at a comfortable height. Position the gun at the bottom of the joint with a 45-degree work angle, centering the wire in the joint, and a 5 to 10-degree push travel angle. Start the arc and adjust your travel speed so that the electrode wire is melting off just slightly ahead of the center of the puddle. Do not use any weaving motion. The finished bead face should be 3/8 inch wide and flat or slightly convex. Weld the first beads on all workpieces before beginning the second pass. For the second bead, position the gun with a 50 to 60 degree work angle, directing the electrode toward one toe of the root pass in order to overlap it about 2/3 of its width. The travel angle is the same as before. Move evenly along the joint with a slight weaving motion. Keep the wire slightly ahead of the puddle center and do not hesitate. The finished face should be 3/8 inch wide and flat to slightly convex with no undercut. Deposit all second beads before making the third pass. The third and final pass will use a 30 to 40 degree work angle and the same travel angle as before to overlap the previous bead by 1/2 and completely fill the joint. Move smoothly up the joint with the same slight weaving motion used for welding the second bead. The finished weld should be 1/2 inch wide, flat to slightly convex, and show no undercut along the toes. Inspect the weld and deposit the final beads on all the remaining workpieces. Now, if desired, a visual and macro etch test can be performed on this weld using the procedure outlined in Topic 11 for the V-groove weld. The standards of acceptability are: the profile of the weld shall show no convexity or concavity greater than 1/16 inch. There shall be thorough fusion of weld metal and base metal, and between adjacent layers of weld. There shall be no sign of cracks or incomplete joint penetration. And there shall be no more than 1/8 inch difference between the length of the legs. Inspect the results and check with your instructor.